What's up, pals? This week we're going to talk about cosplay money, like making money as a full-time creator. Last week we did the media kit video and I appreciate all the love on that so much. I have a lot of fun doing these marketing videos because helping others turn their creative passions into a viable business is just something I've always been wildly passionate about. So thank you for the awesome response to the marketing videos. And I did a little poll on here and you guys said that next you wanted to talk about cosplay income or creative income. So that's what we're gonna do today. I can of course only speak from like what my experience and the experience of those I've worked with or around me. So perhaps there are avenues I don't discuss that you have insight into, and I would love to hear about that in the comments below if so. To be clear, I'm gonna use the word cosplayer and cosplay a lot, but a lot of this really applies to any creative industry, any endeavor where you're turning your online passion or business, whatever it may be, into a viable business, viable and profitable business. I also want to make sure that first we discuss the reality of uncertainty. So I've discussed this in my videos before, but like I quit my full-time job several times and went back to them on the journey to figuring out how to be a full-time creator in a way that was sustainable. And I think that's different for everybody. Obviously, some people come out the gate and they can really just pare back on that full-time job and go for it. Others choose to never do that and be a full-time creator on top of having a full-time job. You can tailor this to however that looks for you, basically. And of course, going full-time or having the ability to go full-time, there's so many variables that go into that. So there's not like one right way to do this. I'm just gonna give you the info that I have, the best of my knowledge, and hopefully that helps you make some decisions. I've heard a lot of people on the cosplay groups on Facebook lately talking about either they just went full-time or they're super close to going full-time, and when they discuss that in the comments, it looks different for everyone. And so what structure works exact for someone else may not work for you. However, it is important to consider that having varying streams of income is going to be entirely necessary. So basically, like, nobody, if not like a small percentage of people, go full-time solely on print sales or merch sales, right? Or when shows were a thing on show gigs. It's very rare that an individual will be able to go full-time with one stream of income. And I once read somewhere that like the key to becoming a millionaire is 5 streams of income. So, you know. So in cosplay and creative endeavors, the streams of income that make, oh my gosh, there are so many. But the combination of them is gonna be different based on what type of content you're creating, what you're comfortable with, and where you're at right now. Also, like when you're getting started, sometimes only certain streams of income will be open to you and the rest kind of unlock as you go. For instance, like guest appearances, sponsored posts, working with companies, affiliations, things like that. Most people get started by selling prints and merch, opening up Patreons and OnlyFans. There are 3 streams of income that are open to you almost immediately, right? But again, it depends if that's right for what you're doing. Prints and merch, I think almost anybody can really incorporate that into their budding business. And on that note, I suggest using Etsy. Of course, there's also Store Envy, Big Cartel. A lot of people actually build out their own stores, like e-commerce on websites if you have a website. So there's so many ways you can do that. For me, I love Etsy. When I switched from Store Envy to Etsy, where I sell prints and merch, photo books, a wide variety of things, when I switched to Etsy, my traffic and my sales went way up. Store Envy, I don't know about Big Cartel, but Store Envy really doesn't provide much support for like organic sales. So that's not something I ever got on Store Envy. As soon as I switched over to Etsy, there'd be sales from people who maybe don't follow my content or maybe don't know who I am, but I have some Deku, my hero, merchandise that they have somebody in their life or themselves like to collect that. So then you get a sale from that. So that's why I super suggest Etsy. But again, whatever site you're most comfortable with is right. Like, do whatever's best for you. Typically, when talking about print sales, I would also discuss guest spots at shows, but obviously that's not like a thing we can do right now. But if you are doing shows, there's several ways people sell prints at shows. So maybe you're invited as a guest, which is also another stream of income, but you also have a booth to sell prints on. There are also a lot of creators who purchase booths at shows. If you are doing that, if that's gonna be a part of like your business structure, I would definitely be prepared to not make back what you've spent. Always be prepared to take a loss in this. Again, uncertainty. The big word is uncertainty, especially when you're getting started and kind of figuring out what's going to work for you and what isn't. So in the same vein as selling print and merch online, you can also do that at shows when they come back. You just want to make sure if you're buying booth and paying your way out there, say you're an artist or a vendor, that you can't always guarantee you're gonna get back what you put into that. So always be prepared for the eventuality that you will take a loss, because I think getting started, most people do in some place or another, right? For me, getting started, I really didn't understand a lot of like the digital fees that went with having like a print store and shipping and things like that. So that's where I took a pretty big loss when I got started. Like selling prints online was not worth it for me, because I just wasn't paying attention to what it costs for me to get those prints, what it costs for me to ship those prints, the fees the platforms take. So prints and merch are a great entry point for making money through your creative endeavor. And then of course, subscription sites. So Patreon, OnlyFans, Ko-fi. I know that there's a few others that have popped out. I'm not sure about them really, but I personally use Patreon, OnlyFans. I do have a Ko-fi, but I don't really promote that or use that. Now, Patreon is for all creators, right? So no matter what you are doing, Patreon is well, I say all, it's not really for the SW community. They're pretty hardcore on that, but it's a great place for your fans to be able to support your content in a way that is monthly. To note, they are switching to anniversary billing, which is the same type of billing structure as OnlyFans here pretty soon. So instead of like right now, Patreon always bills on the 1st. So like on the 1st or the 2nd, you get your Patreon paycheck for the month. Whereas they're switching to that, like if I sign up for your Patreon on the 7th of March, I will always be billed on the 7th. It is important to keep in mind, because a lot of people who are doing Patreon or planning to do Patreon, you really like got used to that being a part of your income structure, right? Like every month on the 2nd, I'm gonna get X amount, and that starts my month income-wise as a business. Because also, sidebar, when you're doing a creative endeavor like this, as opposed to like a typical, like say 9-to-5 working at a bank or something, you have to put money back into your business. You're creating, you need to use a portion of that money to pay for your materials, creating your content, whatever that looks like. So many things to be aware of that, like getting started, I didn't know about. I really didn't. I went full-time about 4 years ago now. The last time, the proper time. Before that, I went full-time twice. I've talked about that in other videos, so I won't go into it. But again, sometimes you go full-time because you're excited and then it doesn't work out and you gotta go back to work, and there's no shame in that. Anyway, back to our avenues of income. So Patreon, OnlyFans, Ko-fi. Patreon is, again, there's creators of all types, all different industries on there. There's not much like organic traffic, so you're not likely to find somebody scrolling through Patreon and they just happen to find you and decide to pledge to you. Typically, that is your fans or followers from your social medias that will follow you there. There's OnlyFans, which there's this perception that it is only for sexy content, but I actually know artists and musicians who use OnlyFans regularly as like a Patreon site, or they think of it as like a paid Twitter feed. So just because you don't do like not safe for work content doesn't mean you can't have an OnlyFans. It's a really great structure. Like I just really like how easy it is to use. However, again, they take platform fees just like Patreon does, and pretty hefty platform fees. So you gotta work that into your income when using these platform sites as well. And then there's Ko-fi, where I believe they have a monthly structure now. I haven't messed with it a whole lot, but otherwise people can just go in and you can like set an amount you're trying to raise and they can buy you a coffee, and that builds up. So Beck Cosplay, who is awesome, I'll put her links down below. She actively uses Ko-fi, I've seen in her stories at least, to like fund projects. So like, oh, we're gonna do this project, here's what we're trying to hit, boom. Jedi Manda is another one who also does that. So that is a great platform for that. I'm not sure about the monthly on there, but for me, I use Patreon and OnlyFans for monthly content. A lot of people ask me about having two platforms like that, subscription platforms, and how I make that work. A lot of people have left Patreon for OnlyFans. I've chosen not to do that just because Patreon is just a really great base for me and my community. Plus, you'll have people who want to support you, but they don't want to use Patreon, or they don't want to use OnlyFans. You know, they're like one or the other. So having both can be really beneficial. For me, it certainly has been. And I've created sort of like a cycle within that. So my 35 and above tiers on Patreon come with free OnlyFans access, because you can create free trial links and set them for 30 days that you can provide to your your followers. So on OnlyFans, on Patreon, for $35, you get all of my digital content, everything I create that month. Whereas on, OnlyFans is geared a little more towards like the spicy content. I do make sure to post like regular blogs and stuff on there to connect with that audience beyond just the spicy stuff. By the time they have opened all of those pay-per-views, they've paid more than the $35 tier on Patreon, who got all of that within that $35. So I kind of use OnlyFans as like, you come in to OnlyFans, if you really like the content and you're opening all the pay-per-views, I will message those people and be like, hey, I really think you should consider checking out my Patreon, because for $35, you're gonna get all of the things. And then typically they will switch over to Patreon. And that helps me retain them longer as well, because they trust that I'm not just trying to take every, penny out of them. Like, I'm really interested in what's best for them, because it's so lovely that they've chose to support me. And then they still get access to my OnlyFans feed, because the $35 tiers above, again, get access to that every single month. So I've kind of created this like cycle of content and for my community, and all of my community ends up in Discord, where not only can we connect more intimately and build a really solid community talk outside of social media, but I can advertise within Discord, so I don't have to worry about my posts not being seen, because I have a place in my Discord where I can show them like, hey, I'm dropping this set, I'm dropping this work in progress thing, this video, whatever it may be, and if they're in one of those platforms, then they know, oh, there's new content coming right there and then. Or if, say, they came into my Discord from being a Twitch sub, but now they've seen cool Patreon content they want, they're gonna jump over onto Patreon. If you're real tech savvy, or you have like a webmaster, you can also build your own subscription site, and then you're not paying fees to these platforms. So if you have a website, you can set something up on there. It's not personally something I'm interested in doing, just because it sounds like a whole lot of work. I can certainly understand why some people do go that route. In the long run, you are gonna save a ton of money. But maybe subscription sites just aren't for you. Like, you have no interest in that. That is fine. Again, we're just discussing possible revenue streams, like streams of income, but if some of them just aren't something you're interested in, that doesn't mean that you can't be a successful full-time creator by any means. It's just that the more you're willing to incorporate, the more opportunity there is to gather that income. But of course, it should also always make sense. One of the things I will say about subscription sites is sometimes the work you're putting into them, you may not be getting the same amount of like income out. Like, think about it. Like, sure, if you're making $3,000 a month, that's sick, but are you working 100 hours a week on your content and trying to maintain that? That's a whole different video about balance, but I could talk forever about that subject as well. Moving on from subscription sites, the next one would be affiliations. This is gonna really depend on the audience that you've built and the community that's around you. So you can become an affiliate with companies. So for instance, I'm an affiliate with Misty Gaming. So every 3 months, I get a payout from them, 10% of all the sales I have made for them. You can typically have as many affiliations as you want, as long as the companies aren't like competing. Like, since I work with Misty Gaming, I obviously wouldn't be affiliated with another dice company, but you don't have to just have like one affiliation. And a lot of companies now, so it used to be like where it was like they would reach out to you and be like, hey, would you like to be an ambassador? A lot of companies have application forms now, because of obviously the boom of the creative industry online. So if there's a company you would really like to work with, I would definitely check and see if they already have that form available. And if not, that media kit, send it to them. I'll put a link to my media kit video somewhere in here. Affiliations work roughly the same, right? So they give you a code that gives a percentage off to your followers. Typically it's like 10 to 20% off whatever products they have or services they have for you to provide your followers. You will get 10 to 20% of every sale you make with that code. And there's usually not an expectation for like how many posts you have to do, because they're not paying you for those posts, right? So it's sort of like you make your own money where it makes sense. And that's definitely sort of not money you can like bank on, right? Because it's not contingent on anything you do, really. It's contingent on whether your audience is interested in purchasing the things that you have the links for. I will say that I've been doing affiliation stuff for a couple of years now, but the most success I've ever had with those codes and links is via Twitch. So incorporating them into my streams, into my bots, having them in those panels below really supercharged my relationship with these companies and the income I was able to make. It's also important to pick companies that make sense for you and your brand and what you're doing. So when I first started getting like affiliation offers, I would just get so pumped that people were interested in working with me that I would just say yes to all of them, even if maybe they didn't make sense for my audience. Well, then I've spent this time making this content with the stuff they've sent me to like promote for them, and then no one's bought anything because my audience is not interested, my community isn't interested in that. So I definitely think you can waste time, which time is money, with some of these affiliations if you're not kind of like picky about who you're working with based on your brand and what it is you're doing. In kind of the same vein as affiliations would be paid posts from companies. So oftentimes companies will reach out to creators and offer them, you do X post, or even build X cosplay, make X content, whatever that may be, and we'll pay you this much per post. And I know there's a lot of discussion on what should you be asking per post? What should companies be paying people? Should you do posts for trade, like they send you merch and you do the post and don't get paid anything? That is all up to you. Obviously, you don't want to undersell yourself, but you've got to do what's best for your brand and for you. And maybe a company reaches out to you and is like, hey, we can't pay you, but we're going to give you all of this dope merchandise, and we just want you to do one post promoting for us. So that's in exchange for those pieces. But maybe it's a company that you absolutely love their stuff, like you have always wanted to work with them, or you've always wanted the opportunity to purchase a whole bunch of their stuff, and now they're giving you a $200 credit to go on the website, get whatever you want, just to do a post for them. It is totally okay to take those opportunities. Because in my experience, there have been times where I've been like, oh my gosh, yes, I really want to work with this company, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that. And then next time they want to post, they come forward with a paid offer for me. And they're like, hey, we really love what you did last time. We love the content you created. You were really professional to work with. So now we want to do a paid promotional ad with you. So while we definitely shouldn't undersell ourselves or work for free all the time, there is some merit to doing trial runs with some companies. It's okay to take a gig that you're excited about, even if it's not paying as much as you would like it to, as long as you feel good about it and it's not gonna put you in the negative income wise. You can wait for pay posts to come to you, but you can also use your media kit if you make one in particular for sponsorships and paid posts, ambassadorships, and you can send that to companies you are interested in. I know plenty of people who have landed paid gigs doing just that. But of course, affiliation and paid posts, sponsorships with companies, ongoing sponsorships that are paid, those are so sporadic. Even if you do get a long-term contract with a company, typically it's only a year. So I know a couple of people who have worked with Brothers Sewing as a paid sponsor, and those have been 9-month to year-long contracts, and the contract ends. That's a really awesome contract. That's a really long-term contract. Typically you're getting paid per post or per stream, however that looks. Again, sporadic. Maybe you're getting one a month and then you get none for a couple months, or maybe you only ever get one a year. And I think it's also important to note that that doesn't speak, if you're getting a ton and then suddenly you get very few, or you never really got many or haven't had any yet, that doesn't really speak to you as a creator. Like, I wouldn't take that personal. You just have to think that like in our space now, these creative communities have boomed so hard. There are so many full-time and part-time working creators out there vying for these sponsorships and these spots that maybe you just weren't the right fit, and that's okay. You shouldn't be discouraged. Gotta keep at it. So we've discussed like prints and merch, whether that be digital or physical. We've discussed subscription sites. We've discussed affiliation links, and paid posts, sponsorships working with companies. Another stream of income is Twitch and YouTube. This is largely going to depend on your audience for sure. Some people absolutely kill it, go 0 to 90 on YouTube, and some people it's a really slow roll to get monetized on YouTube. You do need to have 1,000 followers and I think 5,000 watch hours within a calendar year now. But in YouTube, you can make money off of YouTube without making like view money from being a YouTube partner, basically. Because even if you're still a budding creator, those companies, again, if you're making really quality YouTube videos, a company might reach out and offer you a mid-roll. So they'll pay you to put an ad in your video. So just because you're not partnered with YouTube doesn't mean there's not an opportunity to make money there, or here, I guess. We're on YouTube right now. Twitch is another great one if you're into streaming, or you can also stream on YouTube now and on Facebook, but I won't really talk about those because I don't stream there, so I don't know much about their income and how all of that works. If you do, I would love to know if you want to put it in the comments below. For me, I'm on Twitch. Twitch is a great space. I mean, Twitch has its issues. We don't need to get into that, but it's certainly a great space for income. It's an opportunity for income, I should say. So you have to be affiliated, and I know you have to have 50 followers, I think 7 viewers for 30 days, and I can't remember exactly what those like thresholds are for affiliate on there. But once you're affiliated, you can make money via Twitch subs, so you get 50% of your Twitch sub income. But affiliates get 50% of Twitch subs. You also get bits, which are sort of like donations, and you can also get donations on there. Once affiliated, you also get paid for your ads. Which is like, you know, a couple of dollars each month. It's nothing huge. You do have to hit $100 each month to be paid out on Twitch. And that is strictly via the subs, gifted subs, and ad revenue. So your donations on there, if you're gonna open yourself up for donations, you can use stream elements and put a little like thing in your panels below, and that'll hit your PayPal immediately after they've taken fees, because everybody takes fees. Just be prepared for fees. And I'm sure like YouTube streaming and Facebook streaming, which is starting to really boom, work pretty similar. But Twitch pays you out once a month, and that's roughly mid-month. So that's why the structure of, if you are into streaming, Patreon and Twitch worked really well up until whenever Patreon changes their anniversary viewing payouts, because you would get a paycheck the second of the month, first, second, and then you would get another paycheck mid-month from Twitch. So as a full-time creator, those are really stable dates, right? For paying your bills and keeping on top of your finances. I should mention, just diving back over to OnlyFans real quick, you can pick your payouts on OnlyFans. So if you want them daily, weekly, or monthly, they're always on a 7-day rolling period, which is kind of annoying, but at least you have options there. The 6th stream of income I have to share with you would be commissions. This is something that I don't do right now, but I would love to dabble in a little later in the year. But I know lots of people who do commissions and absolutely swear by it and love it. It's become one of the biggest parts of their income overall. So the opportunity there, if you have the time to create for others and not just yourself, is huge. A lot of people who do, that I know at least, who do commissions do also choose to use Etsy. I love Etsy. I just think it's a really great platform, especially again, if you are gonna incorporate commissions into that. And then again, I'm not gonna like dive too deep into this. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I did wanna give a bit more context. Shows and conventions and events, right? So obviously there's virtual events going on right now, some that are paying, some that aren't. A lot of you had asked about the structure of working as a cosplay guest or a guest judge for shows and how that payment structure kind of works. It's gonna be things like that, and working with companies are all really gonna have to do with you and what you expect. Like what do you need? Because all of our needs are gonna be vastly different. So like we can ask people all day, like, what do you charge? What do you charge? But what someone else charges may not be right for you. So typically shows, and again, I say typically, but it really depends on the show. It depends on the size of the show, how much money they have, what they've offered others. It's just, oh my God, there's so many variables that go into it. But typically for a show, if it's say out of state show, right? I personally, so if it's a local show, I really don't ask for anything but the booth. Like it's local, I'm supporting my local community, right? If it's non-local, I do at the very least expect travel and hotel to be paid. Like you gotta get me there, and I've gotta have a place to stay that doesn't take money out of my pocket, because I won't be selling prints all weekend, right? And that again is so unstable. I will be away from my booth doing workshops and panels and judging the cosplay contest and doing things for the show. Pretty flexible on like my appearance fees or per diem, because I recognize that every show has different wants and needs and what they can offer you, you know, and I think that's gonna be even more complicated now that COVID has happened, because a lot of these shows just won't have the same money that they had. They've lost out on a lot of money. So I think we're going to see a lot of paring back on guest spots, and probably a lot of focus on local creators across the country because of this. But typically, so I would ask for hotel and travel. I personally think that that is the least a show can do for you if you're coming, especially out of state, right? Because there is no guarantee you're gonna make your flight and hotel back. I have known so many creators who thought that was a great idea, and then they're out thousands, and that sucks, because that can tank your whole business. There are plenty of shows I have just been kind of, we talked about with companies earlier, that I was just so excited that they had reached out to me, and I really wanted the opportunity to show them that I was gonna do a killer job at this. And so I accepted, they said to me, you know, in negotiating, like, oh, we'll do hotel and travel and per diem, but there's not going to be any appearance fee. And I have accepted that. But I'm at a point in my business now where I feel pretty, again, that word uncertainty, but I feel pretty confident in what I typically would make at my booths per show, especially depending on the city and the region of the country. I, before COVID, had a lot of that pretty much on lock. However, I would argue if you're judging the costume contest and you are away from that booth for a really long time, there probably should be some compensation for that time, especially judging, because I mean, I've done some costume contests where we're judging for 12 hours straight. And that is just 12 hours of working. You're working for that show. Anyway, that's another tangent. So we've discussed prints and merch, digital and physical, the subscription sites, affiliations with companies, paid posts or sponsorships, partnerships with companies, commissions, and just working for shows. And while that's the streams of income I have to share, it's certainly not all of them. The main point I want to make is that it's nearly impossible to go full-time off of just one stream of income. You really need to be ready to diversify that. And, you know, again, like you're gonna have to work at if you're creating content for subscription sites, so you're creating exclusive content on top of the content that's on your social media, which I would argue is overflow content. Like if you're building a costume and you're taking photos of the whole process, it's unlikely that you're gonna be able to put all of that on social media. So that's great content for your pay site, and a great way for people to learn something from you and get to see behind the scenes while supporting you for, you know, whatever it may be, $1 a month, $5 a month. I do see people asking a lot, like, well, what should I be charging for patron tiers or OnlyFans? Again, that's something that is entirely up to you. I recommend looking at other creators who have similar audiences to yours, and kind of seeing what they're doing. Just because it works for one person doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work for you. I think the biggest takeaway from this should be how important it is to be comfortable and able to evolve with the space, because obviously this is a budding industry that is just absolutely booming and changing all the time. So be ready to evolve, be ready to make changes, and be ready to be discouraged and be prepared to, you know, come back from that. Like that's just, it's the roller coaster of online creation. It really is. You go up real high and come down real low, and that's just kind of part of the journey. You're gonna have good months and you're gonna have bad months. And it is a lot to like think about. Like I definitely feel like once you turn your creative passion into a full-time gig, you're adding money into that, right? And that can take the fun out of it. For me, I'm very passionate about what I do. I feel very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing, but certainly you're thinking about income a lot, and you have to be able to separate that in your mind, but still be aware of, you know, obviously if you're like, you have to pay bills and this is your full-time gig, aware that you're in a good place. So that goes into like proper time management and organizing, which is something that is not a strength of mine, but I'm certainly working on. But I think that it's important before you go full-time, instead of diving into it head first, that you really like work up to it, make a plan, have an idea of where you want to be. You can open those subscription sites. If you have a full-time job, you can open your subscription sites or sell merch or whatever while you're still working. Like obviously you're going to be coming home from work and then sort of like going back to work. But if it's something you're truly passionate about, then it's worth it. I certainly think it was worth it and has always been worth it. Even on the days where I'm like, holy shit, today sucks. It's still worth it because I love it. This is my passion, and I'm so fortunate to be able to do it full time. So that makes the low days feel a little better for sure. TLDR, have a plan, diversify your income, track your spending, and just make sure it's worth it for you. And more importantly, you know, again, it's not all about the money. So if you do start going full time, or like if you go part time and just having to track the money it takes away some of the passion, the drive, and the love for it you have, then you don't have to do it. You can do the thing without monetizing it, right? We don't have to monetize all of our hobbies. I think that there is this like I don't know what the word for it would be, but basically like, oh, I have to be a full-time creator to be like respected in the space. And that's just not true. I mean, and create the content you love. We all want to see it, and that's all that really matters. The rest is up to you and what you want to do, but don't do it just because you think it's some like internet clout thing, that it's like, oh, I have to be a full-time creator, or the cosplay community or whatever creative community I'm in won't respect me, because it's just not true. You've just got to do what's right for you and your brand and your passions. Be prepared to diversify, make a plan, and do the thing. If you're passionate and excited about it, you should absolutely do it. I do firmly believe, I say this all the time, but I mean it, that there is room for everybody to be successful in their creative space, especially in this day and age. There just is. There's enough companies for everyone to have sponsorships. There's enough shows for everyone to have a gig, whether that's a panelist or a host or a cosplay guest or a guest judge. Really appreciate that you guys have been watching all of these marketing videos. I do have some from last year when I kind of started doing this. I am gonna do more now for sure, because again, this is something I'm super passionate about. I love making the costumes and doing the things, but I also really, really love teaching others how to turn their passions into careers. So I hope this video was helpful. Let me know what other subjects you would like for me to discuss. Otherwise, any questions you have, drop them below. I have a link again to like the media kit video and some past marketing videos. If you have different streams of income that you personally use, I would love to hear about those if you have a structure that works really well for you. Also, if you are getting started on like Patreon and those, almost in any of these income avenues, there are creators who have written like books very specifically or done videos very specifically that are awesome. For instance, Ginny D has a like getting started on Patreon book that I would recommend for anybody. She's had a lot of success in that space, so I definitely think that that's worth, I could be wrong, I think the PDF is like $5. I'm not sure. I'll also put a link to that below. Anyway, hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. Please smash subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments below, and have an awesome Wednesday, pals.